Hi, this is Eva again with Once Upon a Timeline, and today I'm going to talk about how the orbit of the moon has changed again. This one's pretty freaky for me. Okay, so this morning I was looking for the moon. I had seen last night that it was supposed to be up early this morning and set in the afternoon, and I looked and I could not find the moon anywhere in the sky, which I thought was pretty strange. So I came here to this moonrise, moonset phase calendar for San Diego. And here we are on the 13th. So it's supposed to come up at about 4 a.m. and set at 2:40 p.m. But then I looked over here and I'm like, what's this? Meridian passing. Now I've looked at these charts a lot in the last couple months because the moon has changed so much. It used to be out only at night. It would come up the same time approximately every night after dark and set in the morning. So now that it had switched to coming up all different times, I had to come here and look at this chart and try to figure it out so I could find the moon. Well, now it's not working. Even though it was supposed to be out today, I couldn't find it. And so I'm reading this meridian passing. It passes the meridian at 9:20 a.m. And I'm like, what does that even mean? I've never even heard of that. So I started researching, and here's crossing the prime meridian. The moon is in transit when it passes the local prime meridian. The prime meridian is an invisible line that runs from north to south. The sun passes over the prime meridian at solar noon. However, the moon makes its transit at different times. Okay, so apparently there's this line in the sky, imaginary line in the sky, and when the moon passes that, that's passing the meridian. Okay, so it was supposed to pass the meridian at 9:21. But why couldn't I see it? Well, here we are at another chart. Basically, this shows the passage of the moon through the day. And so at the highest point here, you can see over, well, if I move my thing, okay, there it stays. No, I can't make it stay. When I move, anyways, if you look over to the right of the screen at 9:31 a.m., the altitude was 38 degrees, which is not super high in the sky, and that's the problem. The moon was out, but it never went high in the sky. So that's a change from my old timeline. Even just a couple months ago, the moon would track the same across the sky. So I would see it whenever I was looking up. I knew about where it would be. And I have heard recently a number of people say they haven't seen the moon out much lately. I think this is why, because the orbit has changed and sometimes it doesn't go high in the sky. So if you have trees, buildings, whatever in the way, then you may not see it during its whole passage because it's over by the low by the horizon. So that's why I couldn't find it this morning. I even went up to a big hill and I looked for it and I couldn't find it. So this is new for me. Even just a couple months ago, I used to see the moon out all the time, half the time during the day, half the time during the night. You would only not see it if you were sleeping the whole time it was out or if it was new moon. So this is huge for me. I don't know what's going on, but I guess we're going to see less of the moon now, or I don't know where this is going from here. Okay, another thing that kind of caught my eye was I just wanted to see, oh, here's another one interesting. So there is kind of a pattern to it. The full moon crosses the meridian at midnight, and the new moon crosses the meridian at noon. The first quarter moon crosses the meridian at sunset, and the last quarter moon crosses the meridian at sunrise. So it's fairly orderly. First time I ever heard of any of this stuff, so it's pretty freaky for me. Okay, so now to the last thing. The new moon. Now, in my old timeline, the new moon was caused when the Earth's shadow covered the moon and blocked all the sunlight. And the moon would be the opposite side of the Earth from the sun, and that's why that would happen. And the shadow of the Earth would control the crescent moon cycles that you would see in the sky. Okay, well, that doesn't happen here. Now it's there's a whole different rotation and a whole different orbit, and it's where the sun is compared to the moon is now controls what part of the moon you see illuminated. So what about the new moon? Is that gone? Well, now the new moon is when the lunar disk is not visible to the unaided eye except when silhouetted during a solar eclipse. Daylight outshines the earthlight that dimly illuminates the dark side of the moon. The actual phase is usually a very thin crescent because the moon rarely passes directly in front of the sun, except in a solar eclipse. So what they're saying here is that the only true new moon when you can't see the moon at all is during a solar eclipse. The whole rest of the time, it's a very thin crescent. There is no new moon as I once remembered it. It's only solar eclipse moon. So it kind of sounds to me like the new moon is outgoing. There is only tiny crescent moon and solar eclipse moon right now. According to this wiki, the original meaning of the new moon, sometimes still used in non-astronomical contexts, was the first visible crescent of the moon after conjunction with the sun. So now the original meaning of new moon was the first crescent. And so I guess it kind of makes a kind of sense. It's not the sense that it made in my old timeline. One other thing I saw that was interesting is it says here the average length of a lunation, which is the average time from one new moon to the next, is 29.5 days. 29 days, 12 hours, blah, blah, blah. Now, somebody else on another YouTube video I saw recently did mention that this has changed, and I do also remember it used to be 28 days from one new moon to the next. It is now 29 days and 12 hours. So that is an additional change. So pretty freaky. Keep an eye on these moon rotations and schedules. I found that this page here, timeanddate.com, helps keep track of it. They have a special moon section that you could go to and kind of see what the moon schedule is in your area. Pretty freaky for me this morning to find this out. There's not a lot of info out on the net. I actually had to hunt pretty hard to figure out what the heck was going on. So sometimes I wonder when people say that it's always been that way in this timeline. It just seems like to me there would be more easily accessible information on the internet if it's always been like this. There should be a million tutorials, and I did not find very many of them. So anyway, that's it for today. This is Eva signing out for Once Upon a Timeline.